Like we said yesterday, if you came yesterday, you came today. There is no session that you have to attend tomorrow. So that should be good news for everybody. We're going to scan IDs at the end just like we did yesterday. We moved it inside here, so at the end just kind of hang tight like we did. We're going to dismiss by section. That way everybody gets out without a big log jam at the end here. And then we do want to plug, we do have a concert tonight, Radio. It's going to be out at the Kite area behind the Grady Clack Center. Looks like we'll have good weather, so make sure you make it out for that. We're going to go ahead and start. And I'd like to introduce our first speaker. She is a graduate of East Central and has worked as an outreach coordinator for 10 years. And worked in outreach for 10 years, as an outreach coordinator. She works with colleges, universities, and organizations to teach money management workshops on subjects such as budgeting, saving, and consumer credit. So please welcome Melissa Ryburn.
You are so in trouble because I'd love to hear the sound of my own voice through a microphone. Not really, I'm kidding. There we go. It actually makes me quite nervous, so be kind. I have worked in outreach for a very long time. The first half of my illustrious career was doing drug prevention. So nobody likes to talk about drugs. And very nicely, most people don't like to talk about their money either. But the difference is a lot of people are not affected by drugs. Everybody's affected by money, right? Because I heard somebody say earlier that the more you have, the better. And the sooner you have it, the better, right? We can all agree with that? So I have crammed a lot of information into a very short period of time, but if you have a question, please stop me. But we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about budgeting, we're going to talk about credit, and then we're going to talk about paying for school. Sound good?
Yes.
Yay, thank you. Interaction is good. All right, that's what I just covered. All right, so somebody holler out, what is the first thing you think of when you hear the word budget? Money?
Why?
Why? That's what my husband would say too. Raise your hand if you said that. Thank you. What else?
Don't have one.
Don't have one. Okay, good. Thank you for the honesty. I'm not hearing any bad things. Normally I hear punishment, it's limiting, I don't like it, I don't want to hear about it. So, Cheapo Depot. So instead of calling it a budget, we're going to call it a spending plan, because essentially that is all it is. It's spending your money on paper. And we like to spend money, right? I like to spend money. Everybody likes to spend money. Okay, so the first thing, budgets just help you to live within your means. You've heard that there are people who like to keep up with the Joneses. That's why there are people with six-figure incomes that are losing their homes and they're filing bankruptcy because they're always keeping up with somebody. My sister-in-law happens to be somebody that's kind of like that, and since they live way far away, you probably don't know them, I can use her as an example. She lives in a very, very nice neighborhood. I am very jealous. We're still in a very small starter home, and it's fine for us right now because that's all we can afford. But she is constantly trying to keep up with what everybody else is doing. Her daughter has twin friends, and they got brand new convertible Bugs when they turned 16, and it about killed her because she could not get her daughter that. But she does everything in her power to keep up with all of her neighbors, and they almost lost their house last year. They rallied, but it was very scary. So it's important to live within your means. And the first thing that you have to do is track your money, and it's not fun. Has anybody ever done this, track your spending for about a month? Okay, if you haven't, I suggest you do it. It can be a very eye-opening experience. I did this. So like I said, I worked in drug prevention, so that was my big thing for a while. But when I started this job, working with money, I learned a lot. And I figured, okay, I better start practicing what I preach, because that would make me a hypocrite if I didn't, and I don't want to be a hypocrite. So I tracked my spending. From every time I went to Sonic and spent $1.29 on a medium Diet Cherry Coke, to when I went into a convenience store and bought a pack of gum. It did not matter. I kept that receipt. And at the end of the month, I made categories, and I did all the math, and it was disturbing. I hollered at my husband. I'm like, Tyson, get in here. And he does not hurry, so he moseyed. And he's like, what? I was like, guess how much we spent on eating out last month? And he's like, I don't know. He hates playing the guessing game, and I love it, so I bug him. I'm like, just guess. And he's like, $200. I was like, no, higher. And he's like, $300? I was like, higher. Yeah, we spent almost $500 in 1 month eating out. And that was my fault because I'm lazy. On a day when all I do is go from work or home to work, put in my 8 hours and come back home, I am on the road a minimum of 2 hours because I live way far away from where I work. And there were days when I didn't plan ahead and Sonic looked better than me trying to scramble and come up with something. So we spent a lot of money eating out. And I thought I had a budget. Unfortunately, my budget was in my head, and it got all kinds of scrambled. I'm amazed we got to the end of the month and still had money. So when you do track your spending and figure out what's going on, sometimes you're pleasantly surprised, and sometimes you become violently ill like I did. So I suggest tracking your money, where you're spending your money. And you may be right on track. It's just good to know, because besides Sonic and Subway, which happen to be pretty much the only places in my town to eat, Walmart was getting a lot of my money, and Payless, because I have a shoe fixation. I love shoes. So once you figure out where your money's going, then you have to prioritize it. And that doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but you know, we have to figure out what's a want and what is a need. And obviously needs need to come first. And then you can prioritize the fun stuff, the things you want. Because unfortunately we have a limited amount of money and an unlimited amount of wants. Because as soon as I mark a want off of my want list, something else jumps up and takes its place. As soon as I got my iPod, which I coveted for a very long time because I was the only one in my little part of our agency that didn't have one, yeah, now I'd really like an iPhone. That's not going to happen, I'm too cheap. But it's a want, and someday maybe I will get it. But one really important thing, and this needs to be in your spending plan. I'm assuming since you're going to school, you someday want to get a really good job and have a nice life for yourself, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't want to be living paycheck to paycheck. If you don't pay yourself, you're always going to be in a paycheck to paycheck cycle. Because most people, about 70% of Americans spend $1.22 for every dollar they earn, which means they're relying on credit to make their financial world go round. And they're never going to get out of that cycle unless they stop it. So the first thing you need to do, and I mean the first thing, before you pay any bill, pick out some money and put it in a savings account. Raise your hand if you have a savings account. That's good. Raise your hand if you actually put money in your savings account. That's good. Because you need to pay yourself. You need to give back to you. You're just as important as the cell phone company or the gas company or whoever it is that you're shelling your money out to. Because I love payday. Payday happened for me on Friday, and my bank account looked really good for about 20 minutes until I paid everybody. Because I pay everybody up front at the beginning of the month, so I know that everything that's left over, it gives me some wiggle room. I can get my groceries out of it, I can buy shoes, I can do all kinds of things. But the first thing I do is put money in my savings account, because if I wait till the end of the month, it just isn't going to happen. The second thing I do is pay my tithes to my church, because if I don't do it at the beginning of the month, they're not going to get it. I will come up with something else that I will spend that money on. So it's just kind of a mentality, but you got to put some back into you, or you're always going to be in that paycheck to paycheck cycle. Okay. You also want to build a safety net, and that's where the paying yourself first comes in. That's the first part of my savings. I have a safety net. I have an emergency fund, because it's not if something bad happens, it's when something bad happens. And unfortunately, this past month, a lot of bad things happened. My husband has somehow messed up his shoulder, and he went to one doctor and they couldn't fix him, so she referred him to another doctor that thinks he wants to do surgery, and all I see is dollar signs. And then my air conditioning in my car went out, and I drive a lot. I want my air conditioning. That was over $1,000. Then he calls and he's like, hey, I got a flat tire, I have to go buy a new tire. So all these things just kind of piled up, but I was good because I have money in savings, so I have my safety net. It's very small now, so I have to work on building it back up, but thank goodness it was there, because that's what it was there for. Raise your hand if you have credit cards. Okay, I have them too, it's okay. I'm not about to yell at you, credit cards are not bad. Once you've kind of got your spending in check and you think you're kind of on track, you know, you've got enough money to get the things that you need every month, and you're paying yourself first and you're building your safety net, try to tackle your credit card debt or whatever debt it is. I'm lucky right now. My car payment is the only debt I have now. Through a very fortunate, well, somewhat fortunate chain of events, I no longer have a house payment, so that's pretty cool. So I have this money that used to go towards my house payment that I really want to do things with. Unfortunately, it's going to making my car repairs and possibly surgery for my husband. But I really want to get myself out of debt, so I'm paying extra on the things that I do owe. So that's a good goal to have. And always, always, always make room for fun. How many of you have tried to have a spending plan and it wasn't fun, it seemed like punishment, so you threw it in the trash and you walked away? That's why most people can't stick to a spending plan, because they see punishment. They see big bad things when they think of having a budget or a spending plan. There's gotta be room for fun because you're put on this earth to enjoy your life. Now that does not mean you should break the bank to have fun. There are inexpensive or even free ways to have fun, like the concert tonight. I'm sure they're not charging you for that, and that sounds like fun. I go to a lot of community festivals, events, things like that, where I find cheaper concerts. We're actually going to one in Tulsa and the ticket was 25 bucks. I thought that was pretty good considering the last concert I went to was 85 bucks a ticket. So, you know, I still get what I want. I have entertainment, but it fits within my budget. How many of you are cash people? You like to shop with cash? Okay? I'm not that kind of person. Everybody has a money personality, and that's one of the first things you have to figure out. What's your money personality? I use my debit card. I use my debit card for everything because if I have cash, it literally burns a hole in my pocket. I will run to Sonic, I will go to a convenience store, I will get snacks is what I tend to spend cash on. I go to the vending machine at work a lot if I happen to have change or cash. But I will not swipe my debit card for $1.29 at Sonic. My husband will swipe his debit card for 50 cents. He then gets yelled at because that really bugs me. But you just need to know what your money personality is. If you like to swipe your debit card and that's not a problem for you, you might try paying with cash. I have a friend that until a couple of years ago did not have a checking account. She solely dealt in cash because it pained her to watch her money go into somebody else's hand. So you just have to figure out, sometimes you have to play mind tricks with yourself. When I started saving, that's exactly what I had to do. I had to convince myself it's still my money, and I started with like 20 bucks. Because I'm like, I can probably live without 20 bucks. And I made it. I made it to the end of the month and I didn't have to pull 20 bucks out. And I did that for a while. And then I thought, okay, maybe I can live without 40 bucks. So I bumped it up. And I made it to the end of the month and I didn't have to pull that money out. I'm now up to 300 bucks a month that I put in savings. Half of that's for an emergency fund. Half of that is for things that are going to have to come out later, like my car insurance or my property taxes and things like that. But at least it's there. And it's also there in case I do have to pull it out. They tell you a lot of times make it automatic. If you have online banking and you can set it up where it pulls it out automatically, I don't like to do that. Some people do. I like to feel the satisfaction of moving the money. With a click of a mouse, I can move my money. I did that before I came here today. It's like checking things off a to-do list. I'm a nerd. I like doing that. It makes me happy. But if you have to be an automated type of a person, do that. And even if it's $5 a month, start paying yourself first. There have been times when I will get the satisfaction of clicking it over, and a little bit later my husband will be like, the car broke down, and I'll be like, okay, I will go back, yay. But that's what it was there for. Okay, these are the elements of your spending plan. Income. Everybody knows what income is. That's whatever is coming into you. I put tips up there because I have a friend, and it never fails. She's the waitress, so she gets a little bit of a regular paycheck, and then the rest is made up in tips. And she came to me one day, she's like, oh, I can't go out with you. I was like, why? And she's like, I have to save my money, my car payment's gonna be late. And I'm like, okay. But then in like the next breath, she shows me this new expensive toy that she just bought. And I'm like, how did you pay for that? She's like, my tips. She didn't equate that tips were income. Because she was used to when she was living with mom and dad, her tips were her play money. That's what she went shopping with. That's what she went to the movies with. Well, now that she's out on her own, she needs to kind of switch her way of thinking and realize that those tips are what she's got to live off of. Buying her groceries, paying her car payment. So anything coming in, whether it's child support, whether it's birthday money from my boss's grandma sends her $15 every year in a birthday card for her birthday. It's income. She's like me, she tends to put birthday money towards bills, but she knows it's gonna come. And then you have your expenses. And there's two kinds of expenses. And the fixed expenses are easy to plan for. Those are things that are on like clockwork, they're the same every month. So throw out some ideas. What would be a fixed expense? Rent. Whoa. I heard car payment, I heard rent.
Utilities.
Can be. Utilities can be. My gas bill is on an average plan, so I know what it's going to be every month. Now, my electric bill goes up and down depending on how hot it is and how much my husband likes the air conditioning. So those are things that are fixed expenses. The other type is variable, and those are things like your grocery bill might be variable. The electric bill might be variable. Putting gas in your car, that is definitely variable for me. If I only went from home to work and back, I could pretty much plan it because it's the same trip every day. But yesterday I went to Seminole to do a presentation. Today I came here. Next week I have to go to Tulsa. So that's very variable. Those are cool though. Those give you wiggle room. Because it turns out if you happen to have a coffee fixation, like my friend Lacey, who goes 4 days a week. And she tried to cut herself off and she just couldn't do it. She was a very unpleasant person to be around. So she just decided to work that into her budget. She now plans for it. But she also knows exactly how much that costs every week, and if she has something that costs more, she knows that she could, as unpleasant as she's gonna be, cut out that coffee for a while and make up the difference. Savings should definitely be in your budget, and that it could be for vacation. If you wanna go on a really cool spring break trip, save for it. I got to go on a cruise for my 30th birthday. That was very fun until the bill came. I will never do that ever again. It was a surprise. I didn't know it was coming, so I couldn't plan ahead for it. The next time we go on a cruise, because it was really cool and we will do it again, the money will be up. I will pay for it up front, so I can just relax and not have to worry about the bill. You might be saving for tuition, or if you're very forward thinking, you might actually be saving for retirement. And everything that you do is going to depend on what your goals are. I have a goal to someday have a bigger house. So because of that goal, I know I need to update my nasty kitchen, and my bathroom is disgusting. So we are penny pinchers because of that. We know that we need to do some stuff, so when we sell this house, we can get the most out of it. If I wanted to go on vacation, I might be willing to take my lunch every day of the week to save money. So whatever your goals, long or short, are going to color what you do with your money today. Just keep that in mind. All right, hopefully everybody got one of our Your Money Matters guides. Please don't throw those in the trash. If you absolutely don't want to take it with you, leave it back on the table, because me and my 3 girls at work, we actually wrote that. If there's typos, it's not my fault. But if you flip open the cover and look on the second page, I know you cannot see this, and this is not exactly the same kind of budget or spending plan that's in the book. We had to simplify it so that it would all fit on here. But one thing that I want to point out is there's a column that says monthly expenses expected and then actual, which means spending plans are not a one-shot deal. You actually need to, plan in the beginning of the month, this is what I think I'm going to pay, and then revisit it. Because if you budget so much for your electric bill and it turns out it was $20 less, well, yay, you should know that you now have $20 worth of wiggle room. You can either carry it over or put it towards your entertainment or whatever you want to do. But one thing that the biggest thing about spending plans, and that's a little hard to read, customize it. Everybody in here is unique. You are not going to fit into a cookie cutter mold. This is something we found on like Microsoft.com, and we tweaked the categories. But we made this up for a completely generic person that is not you. So what you need to do is find the tool that works best for you and customize it to fit your lifestyle, instead of trying to make your lifestyle fit something that somebody at Microsoft created or something that I created. I circled home. How many of you rent? Okay, then this would apply to you. It says, the cost of rent and the cost of renter's insurance. How many of you own your own home? Okay, so you would maybe tweak yours. I own my own home, so I wouldn't put rent, I'd put house payment, which I don't have anymore, but I did. I would put property tax and homeowner's insurance. Everything is going to be, or maintenance. So you need to tweak it. This one doesn't have it, but the one in your book does. It has a little category for children. I don't have any kids, so I would cross that out because I don't need to look every month at a category that does not apply to me. Now I have 4 dogs. So the pet expenses category definitely needs to be there. I too like coffee. I make my own at home, but I do treat myself periodically to Starbucks, so that's in there. You just have to make it work for you. A spending plan is a tool just like anything else, and you just have to make it fit. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, we're going to jump into credit. Raise your hand if you think credit is good. Okay, if there's something that's good, that's okay. Don't be scared. I'm not going to yell at anybody, I promise. Raise your hand if you think credit is bad. Okay, I expected that. Raise both hands if you're on the fence. I expected that too. Just like a spending plan, credit is a tool. And if you use it wisely, that is good. This is where your spending personality comes into effect. If you are a spender and it feels fun to swipe a credit card and you think, I will worry about it later when the bill comes, credit might not be for you. But if you approach it whereas credit is something I use to get the things I need in an emergency, okay, that's cool. Very few people that I know could buy a car or a house without some form of credit. So it's good and it's bad. It just depends on how you use it. I have had really good credit, I have had really bad credit, and when we get a little further, I will explain to you why. I've gotten myself into a situation and dug myself out of that hole. I will never be in that situation again. So if you've had a bad experience with credit and you have dug yourself out, congratulations, it is possible. But you won't let yourself get there again. Okay, if you choose to get a credit card, here are some things that you should look for. And with the credit climate, it's maybe a little harder, but try to look one for that does not charge you an annual fee. Because let's say you sign up for the credit card and not when I first started college because I went to Seminole, but when I first went to Ada, I signed up for 5 credit cards the first week I was on campus. And my mom was very financially minded, she taught me all this stuff. She never really talked to me about credit cards, so I wanted the freebies. I fell for the clever marketing. I got an ugly t-shirt, it eventually got stained, and I got a really ugly CD case. I still had that CD case, it was a very expensive CD case, a free one. And I can't even remember what the other things were, probably pizza, but it was not worth it. There were several of them I cut up. I did not realize at the time that cutting up a card does not just cancel the account. You actually have to write or call. But thankfully none of them charged me an annual fee, because had they, I would have had to pay them just for the privilege of having cut up their card or having kept it in my wallet and not using it. Look for a fixed interest rate, not a variable one, because variable ones can go up and down, usually up from month to month. Now, any credit card company can change the terms of your contract with them with 15 days written notice. That's about to be changed. I think it's going to go to 45 days, so it gives you time to opt out. And just make sure you read the fine print. Get out your magnifying glass. If it's confusing, find somebody that can explain it to you, because you cannot pull the "I didn't know that," because they will be happy to point out where it is in the legalese in the back. Long story short, pick the one that's going to work best for you. My boss's husband works at a software company, and he goes to Germany and Japan and all over the globe for work. And he gets airline miles. They use their personal credit card to pay for things, and he gets reimbursed. Well, he had to go to Hawaii for a week, and my boss got to go with him using their airline miles. So her room was paid for, her ticket was paid for, she just got to go lounge on the beach for a week. They use credit to their advantage. I've purchased things at Sears or Lowe's because you get a year interest free. So that's cool. I like to do that. I pay it off in 11 months, so I don't even get close to having to pay interest. Sometimes 10 months, it just depends. But credit is a tool. Use it to your advantage. Just be smart with it. Don't spend money you don't have. Credit should be used for buying big things like a house or a car, or for emergencies. Midnight pizza cravings, not an emergency. I don't care how much it seems like it. Don't have that "I'll pay it off later" attitude, because I've done that and I've gotten a lot of trouble, because there's a lot of things that come due at the same time, and there's always something that seems more necessary, so I'll make the minimum payment. $15 is easy to swing. That's me skipping lunch out twice a week, but it will take me forever and a decade to pay off my debt if I only make the minimum payment, because who tells me what the minimum payment is?
They do.
They do, the credit card companies. And the credit card companies want to make as much money as possible, right? So they're trying to get your money. So make more than the minimum payment. Always pay your bill on time. If you still do things by snail mail, because I have a couple of bills that I cannot pay online, I always make sure that I pay it at least a business week in advance, because I've been dinged by late fees and that makes me angry, because it's usually my fault. I've piled something on top of the bill and find out the day it's due. Have a repayment plan. I bought a futon one time from Walmart on my little Walmart credit card, and I had the money in savings to pay it off, but I didn't want to because I liked money sitting in my savings account, so I paid it off in 3 months. The interest charges were very minimal. I was willing to do that. Always pay more than the minimum payment. And if for some reason, and this goes with everybody, this is if you have student loans, your lender, if you have a car loan, whoever you owe money to, utility company, whatever, if you can't make the bill payment on time, call them. Because trust me, it's a lot better for you to make the first call than them. Because they're not always the nicest people when they have to try to collect from you. And heaven forbid they turn it over to a collection agency, because they're usually not the nicest people either. Okay. We made up Molly. Just like how we made up the generic budget, we made it generic Molly. And Molly chose to charge $1,000 in school supplies. Let's say she had to get a laptop and she needed to buy her books, so she puts $1,000 on her credit card. And let's just say she never charged anything else, which is rare. Most people keep charging up to their limit. Her minimum monthly payment is $30 a month, very doable, but it's going to take her 8 years to pay that off. So her laptop is probably completely obsolete and the books were only good for one semester and she's still paying for it. And on top of that, she's gonna pay almost another $700. Now, had she been very forward thinking and thought, oh, I'm someday gonna need $1,000 and she just happened to save up for it, it would only take her 3 years at $30 a month to save up $1,000 and she'd earn $50 in interest. Just free money that the bank paid her for keep putting money in their bank. Now, that's a long time. Let me give you a better real world example. My husband Tyson is the spender in the family and I'm the saver in the family. And he's always coming, his want list is miles and miles long. And he comes to me and he's like, our TV's junk, we need a new TV. I said, no we don't, it's fine. You can still see it. He's like, there are squiggly lines in the picture. I'm like, yeah, you can see it, it's fine. You can hear it, you can see it, we're good. Well, when everything went digital, he got real excited because he's like, now we have to get a new TV. I'm like, crap. Okay. So I cut him a deal. He gets paid every 2 weeks. I get paid once a month. We pay all our bills out of my paycheck. We live off of what he makes. I was like, I'll pull $50 from every paycheck and I'll put it in savings. And he's like, okay, why? And I said, well, come Christmas, we'll buy each other a TV. That'll be our Christmas gift to each other instead of all the little junk that we normally buy. And he's like, fine. He was happy as long as he could go to Sears and visit the TV and pet the TV. He was happy. Well, I cut that deal in January, right after Christmas. And come, I think it was July, he calls me at work and he's so excited and he's like, how much money do we have? And I'm like, why? It's always the question I ask, why? And he's like, the TV's on sale. And I said, well, how much is it? So he tells me, I look it up, and I'm like, yeah, we have that much money. He goes, can we get it? And part of me wanted to tell him no, because I'm trying to teach him delayed gratification. It's like, that was not the plan. The plan was we will get this at Christmas. But then I thought, well, why spend more money at Christmas? Yeah, heck yeah. So he goes and he buys the TV. He's very excited. It's very nice to sit in our living room and watch a TV that belongs to us. It does not belong to the credit card company. It does not belong to Sears. It belongs to us. So, and it did not take us 3 years, although it was not a $1,000 TV. It was a $650 TV. So, yeah, not too bad. Okay, this talks about your credit score. Does anybody here actually know your credit score? Okay. If you have no credit, it's 0. And that's okay, because if you have no credit, there's nowhere to go but up. So try to make good decisions and build good credit. Don't be like me. I'm about to tell you the stupid thing I did when I was 23, 24. The credit part of this presentation is my favorite because I have the most experience with it. When I graduated Ada, I worked all through school. I didn't have to take out student loans. I got some grants and scholarships. Things were good for me. I was completely debt-free and I got a good job with OSU. At one point in time, I had $8 grand in my checking account. It's not counting savings. It's not counting anything else, just checking. Well, when I was about 23, I met this guy. And he was 30, so I thought, oh, he's older and he was really cool. And like, he's gonna take me places. He took me to bankruptcy court. Yeah, it was bad. We got engaged, and you know, when I looked at him, I saw those little like cartoon hearts floating over his head, and when he looked at me, he saw dollar signs. Because he was convinced that, you know, I was in a really good place, and I was. And he was a complete con artist, and I had never met a con artist before. Yeah, now I can kind of spot him from a mile away. But long story short, I let him use my credit because his credit was very, very bad, and I felt bad for him. I thought he was rehabilitated. No. Yeah, he ended up using my name to sell things over eBay, which is great for about 6 months. After that, turns out he had a really bad gambling problem. So the money that people were sending him, he was gambling. It was great while he was winning because he could still buy the stuff sent to them. Well, his winning streak faded rather quickly, and he just kept taking people's money. So I started getting threats at work, threats on my cell phone. Great diet plan. I lost about 15, 20 pounds. Stress will do that to you. I ended up, you know, he skipped town, don't know where he is now. And my parents helped me get a loan to pay back the eBay people. I paid back $20,000 and I filed bankruptcy on $60,000. Yeah, so I was really, really, really good. And then very quickly I was, you know, in the deepest hole you can dig for yourself. Good news is that I filed when I was 24. I'm 32 now, and my credit score is actually really good now. I'm a homeowner. I have a relatively new car. It was easy to buy the home, very hard to insure it because of my credit. So try to protect your credit. It makes life harder. There are employers that do background checks on you and they run credit checks. When I applied for a money management position, I had to be very upfront that I had filed bankruptcy. But I spun it. I said, I now know what the average Joe deals with. I can actually go out and talk to somebody and be like, hey, I've been there. There's hope. So there's hope. If you already have bad credit, you can dig yourself out of it. So, but it's very important. Don't let anybody use your credit. I don't care how much you like them, how much you love them, how much you think you trust them. Now I'm off my soapbox. You don't necessarily need to know what your credit score is unless you are going to buy something that's like big, like a car or a house. I happen to know because the car dealer told me when I went to buy the car I have now, and I was excited and I about fell out of my chair. And my husband and my parents were with me, and he left the room, and my mom's like, "Stop looking so surprised." It's like, "But I am." She's like, "Fake it. Pretend you knew that your credit was good." So I don't necessarily suggest that you check your credit score, but I do suggest that you check your credit report. Do not go to freecreditreport.com. I don't care how funny the commercials are, how cute that little guy is. They will charge you. They'll give you a credit report that you have to sign up for credit monitoring service, and you don't need it. It's stuff that you can do yourself for free. But go to annualcreditreport.com, and that's in the booklet that I gave you. Okay, any questions on credit? Protect your identity, your personal information. Don't share it with anybody. Okay, now we're going to talk real quick about paying for school. All right, there are different types of financial aid. We have grants and scholarships, and they kind of fit into the same category because they're gift aid. You do not have to pay them back, which is great. Then there's work study, which is basically, you fill out your FAFSA. Everybody fill out your FAFSA. When I was in school, I didn't know you had to do that every year. So I probably would have got a lot more financial aid if I had realized that you have to do that every year. But basically, that's just where you get a job on campus, and you can use that money to pay your tuition. And then there's student loans. What you do first, use your grants and scholarships first. It's like going on an educational shopping spree on somebody else's dime. If your parents or your family happen to have college savings, use that next. And then if there's still a gap between what you have and what you need to pay for school, federal student loans. There are a lot of commercials for private student loans, but federal ones are better. They have better repayment options, just very flexible, a lot more than private student loans. Now, I say that only borrow what you need to pay for school. I know people that have gotten certain cosmetic procedures with their student loans, or they go buy new cars, or do whatever because they think, oh, well, I don't have to worry about it until I'm out of college. Well, yeah, that's really easy to do, but you also have other things you probably want to do when you're done with school, like buy a new car if you've been driving around a clunker, or maybe you want to get a house. And if you've already decided that you're going to spend all this extra money that you're going to have when you get that dream job, 6 months after you graduate and your grace period comes up, you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt. My coworker Liz, who sometimes comes with me and we teach this, she came from Virginia and went to OU because she wanted to be a meteorologist. Yeah, she's got a writing degree now. Do you think writers make as much as meteorologists? No. She has a brand new house, so she has a mortgage, and her student loan payment is the same as her mortgage. So she's basically paying for a house twice the size of what she's actually living in because she took every dime they offered her. Because when OU shut down, she had to go home because they closed campus. So any holidays, anything like that. And her mom wanted her to live the lifestyle that she'd been raised in. She couldn't afford it. Now she's kicking herself. So only borrow what you actually need, and the financial aid office can help you figure that out. Exhaust all federal student loans before you even consider a private student loan. They're just not worth it, and you really shouldn't. With the federal student loan limits, you probably don't need private lending. Okay, do your spending plan before you actually borrow. Figure out what the total cost of your tuition, your books, and all that. Like I said, financial aid office can help you. Figure out what resources you have. What are your living expenses? Because sometimes it's okay to borrow a little bit extra if you're not working, so you're gonna live off of it. But you have to be really frugal. Live like a college student. And if there's anything left over, remember that you don't have to take everything that's offered to you. So if one semester you take out so much and you have extra left over, decrease it next time. Or if you were right on the line or you were really struggling, borrow more. Remember, student loans have to be paid back with interest. At my agency, we have a recoveries department, which is a really nice way of saying collections. And we can actually overhear our side of the conversation a lot of the time. And they're explaining to people, yes, you did know you have to pay back your loan, you signed on the dotted line, you did know. But they will have people that just argue until they're blue in the face that they had no idea. So I'm telling you, student loans have to be paid back. Okay, a good rule of thumb. A lot of times people think, oh, I'm gonna do such and such when I get out of school. And this is how much those people make. Well, a lot of times that's the median income. Those people have been doing that job for 5 or 10 years. Be aware of what you're gonna make starting, right out of the gate. If you want to be a teacher or whatever, be really aware of what you're actually going to make and a rough estimate of what you're going to bring home. Your student loan payment shouldn't exceed 8% of your first year's monthly paycheck. Okay? Start thinking about repayment before it begins. You have a grace period, but don't run out and get a new apartment or buy a new house or get a new car. Just keep in mind that you're going to have to make that payment because your student loan payment is a fixed expense just like your rent or your car payment, and you don't want to be turned over to collection agents. When I was going through all that muckety-muck with my credit, I became very familiar with collection agencies. They're not very nice. I had one person that was actually nice and treated me like a decent human being. I was happy to pay her back. Everybody else, I just avoided their phone calls, which is not a good coping mechanism. Okay, like I said, it's a fixed expense. Make your payments just like anything else, on time, every time. Pick up the phone if you can't. And be a pack rat. Keep everything that has to do with any student loans that you have. And make a file that says my student loans and keep everything because it could come back and you could need it. Okay, that was really quick. That was a lot of information. Do you have any questions?
How do you make a budget with a variable income?
Good. Very. She wants to know how you make a spending plan with a variable income. You're going to have to track your spending a lot and kind of do an average. So figure out like what is the least amount you've ever made in a month and maybe go from there. I err on the side of very cautious because I don't want to give myself too much wiggle room because I tend to go to the very edge of that wiggle room. So just figure out what is the absolute minimum that you can function on and budget from that. And then if you have extra, that's cool. You can figure out where to put it. Does that make sense? My husband used to do carpet cleaning, so he was technically self-employed. So yeah, we had to learn to do that. And we just figured out what the absolute minimum was that we could function on in a month. So, good question. Anybody else? Oh, yeah.
If you're a cash person and your husband's like a credit card person.
Oh, good question. She wants to know, what if you're a cash person and your husband's a credit card person? You have to sit down and come to some kind of compromise. We actually, in the first year of our marriage, had 2 bank accounts because money used to not be a big deal for me. I grew up comfortable, not wealthy, but comfortable. I didn't worry about anything. But after all my credit stuff, I became very conscious about my money and I was very worried about, was I going to have enough? Money for me is security now. So I didn't trust my husband. And he watched all this. We had been friends, so he knew everything about my history. But I made him have his own checking account. He had his money, I had my money. And I paid all our bills, I was in control of that. And when my bank account ran low from paying the bills, I had him cut me a check. So he kind of dealt with his own thing and I dealt with mine, and we came together and paid the bills when we needed to. So, and that worked for us. You just kind of have to figure out, just like your spending plan, you just have to figure out a system that's gonna work for you. But good question. Anybody else? Yes?
On that annualcreditreport.com, it checks, you can check all 3 of your credit sources once a year.
Yes.
So if it checks one every 3 months, it's usually a good way to keep an eye on it.
That's what I do. And very good point. There are 3 different credit reporting agencies: TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. And you're entitled to 1 free credit report from each of those once a year. So I spread mine out, and that was what he was suggesting. My loser ex memorized my social. So I check mine just to make sure that nothing new has cropped up because I don't trust him. I don't know where he is and I don't know what he's doing, but I want to keep on top of my credit to make sure that everything's okay. And each one is going to look a little bit different. Not everybody reports to all of them. Some place that you work with, either your bank or sometimes utility companies will even report. They may only report to one and not the other. So, but very good. Thank you.
On my credit card, they offered me 1,000 limit, so I reduced it down to 500.
That's good. She said her credit card actually offered to raise her credit limit, and she told him no, put it back. You can do that. And that's really good if you know you're a spender, because you don't want to max out your credit limit because that looks very bad on your credit score. So you have to have the right credit usage ratio. There's this whole long math equation. I have a counseling degree, and I chose a counseling degree because I didn't want to do math. So I can't really explain it to you, but it's very complicated. But one thing you don't want to max out your credit. Yes?
How can you like build good credit if you don't want to get a credit card?
Okay, good question. She wants to know how to build credit if you don't want to get a credit card. If you have a good history with somebody, whether it be maybe a cell phone company or a utility company, you can ask them if they'd be willing to start reporting to a credit reporting agency. When my credit went in the tank, my parents put me on their credit cards. I don't have a credit card that the card has my name on it, but I'm just an authorized user. So technically there's not one that is solely in my name, but I'm getting to benefit from their good credit, plus it's keeping me accountable because I don't want to screw up their credit. So that's sometimes an option too. Or say I planned on driving my old car until it completely died. Unfortunately, that happened a lot sooner than I intended, so I had to get a new car. And they co-signed for me. So it's in my name, me making the payments benefits me, but they were able to help me, so there's some options. Next. Going once? Going twice? Okay, that's all I got for you. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, hang on. Sorry. There's contact information. That's it.
Thank you very much. What we're going to do now, First Baptist Church of Okmulgee is back with the snacks tonight, and so while we get ready for our next presenter, they're out here back in this west lobby. Feel free to go out, get some drinks, get some snacks. We're going to take about a 20-minute break, so feel free to stretch your legs.